Mahavatar Babaji's RajaYoga, the yoga of love, the yoga of light. This message is about this and what this is about. Love is the most powerful energy in the universe. This energy flowing through us, ferrying us through the turbulent forces of the dark oceans to the joyful shores of light, purifying and breaking through the layers of doubt, conflict, and ego. The five boys, we make these demons shameful and make fun of them by calling them boys. These five boys of greed, ego, infatuation, malice, rage, and jealousy. And look at what they have done. Putting horse blinders on our eyes and making us run around in circles, wasting away our precious life for baubles, shiny stuff. That's why the heart and the intellect has to work in unison. Understand and realize that you are all children of God. God is but love, and love is the source of all creation. Each one of God's children is beloved. God is love, truth, wisdom, and bliss. God's child may see God in his own form as divine masculine or divine feminine, as divine light or divine word, each to what the child knows and understands from his or her earthly existence. God is above all religions, holy books, theosophy, and philosophy. God resides in the heart of his child. The human body and its astral counterparts are but sheets built around this joyous light and music of love. Yoga is a union with this love that is God. Let's not get into semantics now. God is on every tongue, and every language gives a different tone. But the aim of that name just leads to that of the power of love. By consciously being in the spiritual heart center and connecting to the beam of light coming from the spiritual heart of Babaji, we achieve putting to rest the waves of the mind and consciously connecting our heart with our heart to Babaji. We are yoking our soul to that of his. Yoga, the basic terminology, means to yoke. Then he, with his grace, pulls up the seeker from the mire and the dirt of this polluted space with his powers attained through tapas, austerities of doing yoga. At one of the stations reached of RajaYoga, austerities, the austere yogi attains siddhis or powers called as ashtasiddhis, the 8 siddhis. They are animan, to become tiny as the atom within the atom. Second, mahiman, to become big in unshakable proportions. Third, Lagiman to become light as vapor, as in levitation. Fourth, Prapti to enter into other bodies, as in transmigration. Prakamya to be in all things, as in omnipervasiveness. Isita to be the Lord of all creation, as in omnipotence. Vasita to be everywhere, as in omnipresence. Kama vasyata to be consumed, to consummate any wish or desire. These are the siddhis great. These are the 8 great siddhis. Using these powers, the Ascended Master, Mahavatar Babaji, is helping us in this age, in this methodology, to reach our full potential for ascension. Initiation into the RajaYoga of Mahavatar Babaji, the yoga of love, the yoga of light, is the sincere desire and the intensity of the seeker. RajaYoga lays down lines along which to proceed in order to gain communion with God. The governing principle is thought power. It is the most efficient system and at the same time the easiest to. God is simple and can be realized in a simple way. Thus, the science of RajaYoga, if taken up in its absolute form, is also the simplest. Training under the system is imparted by Satguru Mahavatar Babaji through the transmission of his grace and love from heart to the beloved child's heart. Great rishis and yogis are said to have attained perfection only after constant effort through several previous lives, their lives too being sufficiently longer than those of today. This was a great dejection to the common worldly people. A weak, sickly man standing at the foot of a high mountain turns away from the very idea of attempting an ascent up to the highest peak, thinking it to be altogether beyond his power and capacity. His perseverance fails, and the very desire to attempt is nipped in the bud. But if some external help, for example, a coach, a motor, a railway, or any such thing is possible and available, he is not only encouraged in his enterprise, but actually his object, which seems so distant and inaccessible at first, is very possible. The power of Sadguru Babaji, his grace, mercy, and love, lifting us children to the heights of self-realization. What is that external help in the path of spiritual perfection which makes our ideal so easily accessible? It is the force or power of a worthy and capable guide, guru or master, who has himself attained that high state of perfection, of oneness with God, and is abiding in it. He can, in a moment, so to say, pull us up by his own force or power, even the weakest and the most degraded of the miserable human beings, and put him right on that path of perfection and realization. Through this system, even the most degraded, physically, morally, spiritually, of human beings have a chance of throwing off their dirty and polluted coverings at a glance and advance with amazing speed on the path of perfection. But you must be sure that the guide you have selected is really worthy and capable of the task. If your selection fails short of the mark, your final ideal or goal may remain unrealized. This is a matter of utmost importance, which a man must seriously look into. It is better to be without a guide all the life than to submit to an unworthy guru. Now, under the present system, the guide, through the transmission by his own will force, tears away and removes the network of diverse hindrances enveloping the different regions and puts him on the path of realization. He also transmits into him the necessary power and energy required for his spiritual upliftment and upkeep. His path is made smooth, and he begins to progress in leaps and bounds, and his master's watchful eye remains on him at all through and keeps him away from undesirable elements that happen to come across his path during the course of his march to liberation. Through his help, the different stages of spirituality are got over and crossed with the least labor on the part of the Abhyasi. His ideal is thus achieved in one life only, after which he gains liberation. Thus, what we get from our guide, Sadguru Mahavatar Babaji, through transmission is like accumulated wealth of the forefathers, which now we only have to absorb and digest within us. This is one of the striking features of the system. In other words, under the old system of training, one had to depend mainly on his own efforts, hard and difficult practices to suppress his inner instincts and desires which always stood in his way, while under the present system of RajaYoga, of Sadguru Mahavatar Babaji, the making of a man is brought about in the easiest and almost imperceptible way by the will force of Sadguru Mahavatar Babaji. It saves a lot of labor and considerable time, which are the main problems of life today. The various stages of spirituality are brought about and got over by the seeker in the shortest possible time through the help of a worthy and capable guide. The only thing that the practitioner or the seeker has to do is approach such a guide with a feeling of love, faith, and devotion. Everything else rests with Sadguru Mahavatar Babaji, who in a way becomes responsible for the spiritual progress and perfection of his child. Veni Babaji, just the spokesperson or the channeler of the Ascended Master. So part 1 is the location of the spiritual heart center. Part 2 is how to activate the center. And part 3 is what Mahavatar Babaji's RajaYoga is all about.